My goodness. Ladies and gents, it's the peasant, the prodigious, the prominent professor at Proclamation News and Gatherance. It's Thursday, the 15th of October, 2:20. Good afternoon with PNG. Flux with the news, flux with the show. Flux, we're going to let it flow. Here we go. Looking at the inequalities across the world, I mean, I'm on all the debating websites on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, always getting in a debate because, I'm part of the union. I'm part of the union. I'm studying politics within the union every single day. People arguing about the WTO, the EU, and Brexit. I mean, I don't think people actually realise how good inequalities we have. Looking across the whole global market through the whole union of the whole globe before you start getting in debate. I say when you get in debate, make sure you know what you're talking about. When people come here, they listen in, they realise you know what you're talking about. He knows what he's talking about because I'm studying the union in black and white every day. I speak off the cuff 9 times out of 10, and I looked across. I don't know the exact figures without looking. I'm going to get into that in a minute. Just top of my head, I know the UK is 12%. 12% of inequalities. I mean, inequality is not, the World Economic Population, WE, no WEF, World Economic Federation across the market forum. Sorry, World Economic Forum across the market of the whole globe. England's got the lowest, 12%. This is 12% of inequalities compared to Asia and Australia. I think I can't remember. It's something in there. Oh, I've got it in front of me. 25%. 25%. The highest. The highest. That's the highest tax bracket of inequalities. I mean, why do Obviously, Asia got their goods in their businesses are cheap. So the people that are working in places ain't they're not earning nothing. They're not earning nothing because our tax policy is so high in the UK. Our workers are earning. So why are people moaning about Brexit? Why are people moaning about a prime minister? Why are people moaning about something they have no idea about? That's what I don't understand with the society. They've always got something to moan about. The critics, I hate critics about within politics. They got no clue what they're talking about. I support Labour Party because they can change the tax bracket. We've got the lowest tax bracket across the whole world. Why are people moaning? As you can see, the impact is higher with inequality in Asia and Australia. This is it's all my notes. Please take note. This is from 2014. As it stands, since then, with the pandemic influenza of COVID-19 and restrictions, the impact of inequality across the world would have risen. The pandemic crisis hitting businesses. Many are struggling to keep the economy moving forward due to safety reasons. The change of inequality is due to the people in the power. Their choice of tax policies. Seeing as we are a 12% bracket, I cannot see what everyone is moaning about our Prime Minister. Majority of people tend to make out they know politics, but have zero knowledge about anything. This is possibly the biggest recession period of all time. COVID-19 has turned into a silent World War III. The statistics were taken at a wide range from the WEF, World Economic Forum. This is the prodigious, the prominent Professor Johnson. I always say it's bona fide conservatism because it is when it comes from my lips and my mind. I always regenerate and recalculate what I see. I'm looking at different charts of all kinds of different things. I look at sociological um, inequalities in households. You got your wife, you got your yourself, you're the husband of your wife, you got your kids. I mean, look at it takes over in the different appliances in the different areas of the household. You got a man would take the bin bags out. 80% of men in a relationship take bin bags out. In the kitchen area, 83% of women in the population will take over in the kitchen. cooking, washing up, washing machine. I look at wider aspects of life, but where things need to change. Talk about equalities, equal opportunities. Things need to change around the household to make it equal opportunities, to make it feel even, and more women work than men as well, and still do more housework. Ironic, isn't it, to think that us men are bone idle? I mean, I live on my own. I don't rely on anyone. I do everything myself. My washing, my cooking, washing machine, change my bed sheets, iron my bed sheets, iron my shirt, as you can see, crisp, looking crisp. Absolutely. Thank you all for listening in. Please subscribe to Proclamation News and Gathered before we head off in a new direction. We're going to look at Essex. We're going to look at the region of Essex. Simple reason is I'm not in Essex right now, but I am from Essex. I've got a lot of family in Essex. Anyway, Essex to enter the Tier 2 system. Essex are entering a Tier 2 system. Today is phenomenal, isn't it? Phenomenal. Islands. 1,000 people. When I say 140 odd thousand, 146, I think, roughly, I guess, maybe less. 140 something thousand people in this dominion. Isle of Wight. Isle of Wight. 86 people have died from COVID in the whole of Isle of Wight. It's the safest place in the UK at the moment. If you look at all the south regions of UK, safest place in the UK. Anyway, Essex to enter Tier 2 COVID restrictions from this weekend. Parts of Essex are set out to be raised into Tier 2 COVID restrictions from today, with the new rules taking effect from as early as Saturday. An announcement is expected from Matt Hancock in the House of Commons at 11:30 a.m. to Tier 2 high alert would mean a ban on household mixing indoors, including in pubs, while the rule of 6 will still apply outdoors. All non-essential journeys would be discouraged. The move comes after Essex County Council submitted a request in response to a rising number of confirmed cases, despite the threshold for the high alert not being yet met. The additional restrictions would not apply to Southend or Thurrock, which are unitary authorities. Meanwhile, MPs in the capital have been told London will move alongside Essex in Tier 2 at midnight on Friday. Gonna move on to what the old formation relation say. It's the teleological, fruitfully thoughtful process was to outline Carvin's, but not having Carvin's. All family updates, UK politics, and a bit of showbiz. We're not having showbiz, but we're having all family updates. Just I like to reel off my old memos from the top of my mind to show some ambition in my creative imagination. Queen carries out the first public engagement outside royal residence since March. The Queen is carrying out her first public engagement outside of royal residence in 7 months. I mean, there's critics about the royal family. The Queen is 94. The Queen is part of the aristocracy. How we should act. We need a public figure to give the rest of democracy something envious to work towards in life. Imagine if you had Al Capone as, the governor of the whole land, the monarch of the land. Everyone's looking up to it. All your children are looking up to that, acting in an inconsiderate manner. That's how our new generation would act. The Queen, you have to come and respect the Queen. In any land you're living in, even if I was living in Brazil and I had the King of Brazil, you've got to respect the way they act. Doesn't matter which country you are from. If everyone's under the understanding, that's how you should act. Obviously, you don't understand the language of the Queen. It's hard, isn't it? I mean, understand all different ethnicities from all over the globe come in. Not everyone could speak fluent English, so they probably have their own. They do. They have their own. What's it called? They have their own churches. People to look up to in In the United Kingdom, for good people, there's always good depicted people for like their monarchy, people they inspire to give their children a good upbringing. The monarch 94 was joined by the Duke of Cambridge for the visit to Portion down near Salisbury to meet scientists at the Defence Science and Technology Laboratory, the DSTL, Defence Science and Technology Laboratory, the DSTL. They also met staff involved in the rapid response to the Novichok poisoning attack in Salisbury in 2018. Special safety measures were put in place to protect the Queen. She arrived separately to her grandson William, and those due to come into close contact with the pair were tested for coronavirus ahead of the visit. Small groups of the people taking part in the event were arranged 2 meters apart. All necessary precautions. Neither the monarch nor William wore a face covering when they arrived and they walked 2 meters apart. Keston Palace denied to comment as to whether the Duke was required to have the test in order to be able to accompany his grandmother. A Buckingham Palace spokeswoman said specific advice has been sought from the medical household and relevant parties and all necessary precautions taken, working closely with DSTL. Until now, the Queen has been in royal residence with a household of reduced staff, nicknamed HMS Bubble. She knighted Captain Sir Tom Moore in the grounds of Windsor Castle in July, and they also watched a socially distanced trooping the colour there for her birthday the previous month. The Queen travelled to Balmoral for a private summer break and also spent a few weeks in Sandiram before returning to Windsor on the 6th of October. Before the Porton Down visit, she had last been seen outside the royal residence on the 9th of March, when she joined the royal family at Westminster Abbey for a Commonwealth Day service. The monarch and William were shown a weaponry used in the counter-intelligence during their visit to the DSTL and met counter-terrorism staff. As a part of the visit, they then spoken to those involved in identifying the nerve agent used in the Novichok incident and those who worked on the decontamination clean-up operation. Russian intelligence has been accused of being behind the attempted assassination of former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and the daughter of Yulia. Months after the attack, Dawn Sturgis and her partner, Charlie Rowley, fell ill in a nearby Abbey. Miss Sturgis later died after coming into contact with a perfume bottle believed to be linked to the case. Hope you enjoyed the show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm always trying to perform some kind of media coverage. It's just trying to build up, a following, trying to make it absolute populism is what I'm trying to do. Where I'm trying to get. And I like to talk about royal family. A lot of my family members spent years as Queen Grenadier Guards. Granddad being one of them, and my cousin Jonathan being the other. So when I talk about aristocracy, social elite, it's because I've had family members spend time as a civil servant in the army and protecting a queen. COVID alert level: London, Essex, York, and other areas moving to tier 2. Mr. Hancock suggests millions of people in London, Essex, York, and other areas face tougher tier 2 COVID measures from Saturday. Health Secretary Matt Hancock has said, under the high alert level, there is a ban on household mixing indoors, including in pubs and restaurants. It comes as a final decision has yet to be made on whether Greater Manchester faces very high tier 3 measures. More than half of England's population will now be living under high and very high alert restrictions. The areas to go into high alert restrictions this weekend are London, Essex, Elmbridge in Surrey, Barrow and Furness in Cumbria, York, North East Derbyshire, Chesterfield, Erie Wash, Derbyshire. I mean, I looked at the how they do the tier 2 level thing they have they've got a scientific, you know, improvement. They try and tackle things. They're trying to keep churches open, but it's down to the Congress of the church, the person in charge of the church. They have a meeting. Think, is it feasible to keep it open? They're gonna have a meeting, aren't they? A council meeting in the church, like all these different things, and make either alterations or shut things down. So this, people say, "Oh, do you think the prime minister is the prime minister doing a good job?" It's not just down to our prime minister. People criticise, like these idiots on Facebook, on social media. Oh, he's rubbish prime minister. He's made bad decisions. He's not doing it on his own. He's got loads of people underneath him. He's got ministers, councillors, this, that, and the other, all underneath him working together. I watch some of the council meetings as well as I do the committee meetings. You see how it all works, and you've got idiots on the outside have no idea about how these restrictions come together. We've got people counting people. How many people go to the supermarket? How many people go to the gym? I mean, obviously, swimming in the water is going to be high risk of catching COVID if someone's got COVID because you're sharing the water. You're sharing the water, sharing fluids. There's things to think about. Loads of things to think about. In a restaurant, eating food, passing saliva, coughing in someone else's food, you're going to get COVID. You've got to make restrictions in certain occupations. Anyway, delivering a statement to the Commons, the Health Secretary said things will get worse before it gets better. I mean, it's like the doctors. You have to ring an appointment. You can't just go down and book an appointment walking down there. You've got to ring and book an appointment. They don't want you just to walk in unless your appointment's due and have a mask on as you go in. It's hard to get an appointment unless it is an emergency. Now I know that measures were not easy, but I also know that are vital. Mr. Hancock told MPs. Responding to this unprecedented pandemic requires difficult choices. Some of the most difficult choices any government has to make in peacetime. The new three-tier system sees every area of England classed as being on medium, high or very high alert, also known as tiers 1 to 3 respectively. It came into effect on Wednesday, and the Liverpool City region remains the only area currently in the highest tier. Hi there, Warren. Lovely to meet you, sir. Please subscribe to my Castbox. I really appreciate it. I've got listeners also on YouTube. I'll put my link up just shortly. At the highest restrictions were announced, the NHS test and trace system in England recorded its worst week for reaching community contacts since the middle of June. Hi there, Minna. Lovely to meet everyone coming through, listening to my radio cast. I really appreciate it. If you can please subscribe. I'm going to have a chat with the audience shortly. I'm on my YouTube, letting the show flow for the listeners on there too. Thank you all. It's the lowest success rate since the 24th of June, down from 77% last week. Coronavirus in London. At the start of October, from the 5th, is 1 to 30. In the middle of the months, we've got 30 to 60. It went up 60 to 61. At the end of October, we've got 120 plus people with COVID cases. There's a note of Hackney and City of London have been grouped together. Labour Mayor Sadiq Khan told London City Hall there was simply no other option to the new restrictions. Nobody wants to see more restrictions, but this is deemed to be necessary in order to protect Londoners, he said. Mr. Khan said he's continued to press the government for the more financial support, adding, "We've got a difficult winter ahead." London Mayor also backed calls by Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer for a temporary national circuit breaker, a short, limited lockdown to stem the spread of the disease. I'm not a great fan of Starmer, but you know what, Sadiq Khan, I can't say nothing bad about him. I've only heard, good stories about him. Speaking on BBC Radio 4 World at 1, Chris Hobson, Chief Executive of the NHS providers, said he favoured this move to ensure the NHS is not overwhelmed by COVID-19 cases. What we need to do is, on the side of a caution, to ensure the NHS has a capacity that it's got to treat every patient over winter, it's been said. However, concerns have been raised about the impact that restrictions will have on businesses, particularly in the hospitality sector. The tier changed the capitals. 3,640 pubs and 7,556 restaurants will not be eligible for government support available to premises which have been ordered to close. The British Beer and Pub Association, BBPA, the trade association for Britain's brewing and pub sector, said Tier 2 restrictions without a proper package of support would decimate pubs. Do you know what? I think's happening here? Landlords, if any landlords are listening in, your pubs might get taken into consideration of criminology. Because really, realistically, from what I always said, from my perspective, alcohol. What does alcohol do? Wrecks your mental health. Wrecks your mental health. Not only your mental health, your mental wealth. You're spending your money in a pub on alcohol. That's ruining your body. I don't know why they've got even pubs open in such times. You need money to keep your mental health and your mental wealth. Without mental wealth, money being there for such bad times, because you spend it on alcohol, you're not gonna have your mental health, are you? You're not gonna have your food. The food's gonna keep you alive for this bad time. Your Christmas come around the corner. You could be having an absolute recession. Think about your children, your loved ones, your families. Emma McClurkin, BBPA Chief Executive, said all pubs are already particular, struggling due to come restrictions of the 10 o'clock curfew, rule of six, and low consumer confidence exacerbated by the local football caused by the lack of tourists and commuters. I mean, that's what I thought. Imagine if you had like a Europe game, European Cup game. What is it? 7:45 kickoff. Finishes just before 10 o'clock, doesn't it? Goes into extra time. These local pub guys are going to be kicking off something chronic. So they might as well just shut the pubs down. The further restrictions will leave most pubs fighting for their very survival. Nicky Aiken, Tory MP for the cities of London and Westminster, has urged the government to set up an exit plan for ensuring London is packed back into Tier 1. She said she remained deeply concerned about the impact further lockdown will have on the capital hospitality, leisure and retail businesses, and Labour Shadow Minister and Ilford North MP West Streeton said the new restriction in London would keep business open, in name only, as he called for more economic support. Robert Hawthorne, the Conservative MP from Harlow in Essex, said he welcomed Tier 2 measures for the county, but would call on Chancellor Rishi Sunak to prevent business suffering financially from the move. We're going to look at the Tier 1, which is medium. Follow Rule 6 if meeting indoors or outdoors, pubs and restaurants who shut at 10 p.m. Tier 2, high, no household mixing indoors. Rule of 6 will apply outdoors, pubs and restaurants shut at 10 p.m. Tier 3, very high, further measures may be agreed locally. No household mixing indoors or outdoors in hospitality venues or private gardens. Rule of 6 applies at indoors public spaces like parks. So to keep parks open, pubs and bars not serving meals will be closed. Guidance against travelling in and out of the area. Meanwhile, discussions are continuing on whether Greater Manchester will be moved into the highest tier of restrictions. A financial package has not been finalised, with local leaders expressing concerns about the impact on hospitality industry on going into Tier 3. Tier 3 involves pub closure and a ban on household mixing indoors in private gardens and in most outdoor hospitality venues and ticketed events. Mr. Hancock is it confirmed in the comments that no decision has been made, adding, but we need to make pay progress. Meanwhile, Liverpool is considering a 2.5 week term break for schools and part of its battle with the COVID-19. Under the plan, backed by teaching union, pupils would be taught remotely at home for the second week. On Wednesday, a further 19,724 cases and 137 deaths in the UK has been announced. I mean, we're going to go back to the tier 3 restrictions. See what is, I mean, we have parks where our children couldn't go in. So they're not taking literally all your mobility away from you. I mean, critics are absolutely writing off. We always get critics in everyday life. No matter what you do, if they're going to work every day, they're going to moan that they ain't got enough time off. Now they've got all the time in the world off to enjoy with their family, their loved ones. They want to go back to work. You're still getting a roof over your head, still getting support. You're not going to lose your house. You're not going to lose your house in such dramatic, traumatic time. You're not going to lose your house. They've supported it before. They're going to support it again. So you can only do but support it and be thankful for what we've got. Thankful that you got support for your rents. Thankful that you got support for your food. It might not be supporting your usual narcotic and binge on a weekend or your takeaway every day, but use your money sporadically, carefully guided to keep yourself fueled. I've been doing it for the last don't know how many years. Am I sitting here moaning? Am I sitting here complaining? Living on £50 a month. I'm sitting here smiling, still trying to produce a good radio content for listeners to come in and subscribe and just give me a bit of acknowledgement. I'll keep trying till I get where I need to be in life because that's the way I work. Coronavirus. We're looking from Jacob Rees-Mogg's perspective. His rules on return of virtual Parliament. Jacob Rees-Mogg has rejected calls from Labour for the Commons to return to virtual Parliament despite the rise in coronavirus cases. Labour's Valerie Vaz said the country was entering a really difficult phase, and some MPs were doing the right thing, staying away from Westminster. But Mr Hogg said not to treat Parliament as an essential service would be an offence to democracy. London is one of several areas set for COVID alert levels rise on Saturday. A hybrid Parliament was introduced back in April, and some elements of the virtual setup will still remain. But MPs are now expected to vote in person or by proxy rather than online. On Wednesday, Commons Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle said it would be open to the government to introduce a motion if they want to return to the hybrid Parliament and the MPs to vote on it. Shadow Leader of the House, Miss Vaz, thanked him for clarifying the process and appealed to the government to take action. We're entering a really difficult phase, she said, as we spoke to people as isolated and on-board members are doing the right thing by staying in their constituencies. Meanwhile, the leaders actually scheduled to debate on COVID-19. She added, can I ask Mr. Rees-Mogg again if we could return to the hybrid voting and a remote parliament? This is a fast-moving situation, and we have to, and people actually have to be careful. Look at the duty, but the leader of the House said MPs have a duty to be here doing our business. Mr. Rees-Mogg added, it is unquestionably the cases that democratic scrutiny is essential even during a pandemic. We have to be here holding the government to account, so our constituents are represented thoroughly. He said ministers have had to ensure we act in a responsible way, pointing measures taken to the Commons from social distance to masks. But he added, we have a personal responsibility. We have a duty to legislate. We have a duty to be here. We have to show the way and to suggest that democratic accountability is not an essential service. It seems to me an offence to the democracy. Parliament went on a recess a week early and after the national lockdown was introduced in March, while MPs were away from Westminster. The Commons authorities worked their plan to allow Parliament to function through the pandemic. In April, MPs signed off the new hybrid proceedings, limiting the number of people physically in the chamber while allowing MPs to participate over video conferencing and vote remotely. In June, the government wanted to get members back in Westminster in central London with Rees-Mogg saying the hybrid parliament did not allow MPs properly hold the government to account. But the government later allowed MPs to self-certify as an unable to attend Westminster for medical and public health reasons, and to use proxy system where another MP votes on their behalf. High horse. Mr. Rees-Mogg's position was criticised by a Tory colleague, Dame Cheryl Gillian, who said a vital part of democracy was being denied to elected MPs by not returning into the initial hybrid system. She added, in the face of the rising tide of COVID infections, can we have a debate on the death of democracy in the mother of parliaments? Or will the leader of the House now get off his high horse and remove this restriction that has resulted to a discriminatory silencing of the voices and of so many of his colleagues leaving them unable to perform their scrutiny function? But fellow Tory Virginia Crosby called on the government to ensure the Commons remain open in order that each one of us on each side of the House can represent their constituencies. She added, we sat down during the war. We must sit down now at this most important time for this country. I mean, why are we under these restrictions? I'm going to give you, some listeners are listening, some listeners won't even take this into consideration. It's very beneficial to take this on board. I mean, do you think we're in a lockdown through COVID right now? You know, it's time to sit back, look where you want to be in life. Think about your aspirations. Think about your aspirations. Is your job right for you? The job you was in, perhaps. Maybe you didn't have a job. You didn't have a job beforehand, but there's loads of courses out there to better yourself from at home. There's online courses nearly in every business sector you want to get yourself into. So everyone's moaning COVID-19. It's time to re-evaluate yourself. It's time to get to know yourself before you find yourself. Find yourself before you get to know yourself. So you can look through all these online courses are free for the government. When we come back off this absolute pandemic influenza recession, you can jump into a better prosperity. Have a better future. Not just for you, for your love. When you go back to work, you've got all the education you need. So all these people who are sitting there moaning, I've been lucky to land my feet and get in some sort of frame of business. I'm also trying to do a business management course as we speak. There's course out there. You just have to find through. You can even ring the local. I don't know where else you can look. Um, Obviously, if you ask your work coach at a job centre, there's plenty of other things you can look for. Just trying to think of the main one. The main site you can look on. It's crossed my mind. It's absolutely crossed my mind. I'm usually quite on top of mind, very knowledgeable, but I can't even think the name of it. If you type in courses to do for free, possibly why you're not going to work, why you're signing on, universal credit claimants, even people with disability. The Sure Trust Group will help you find work. Sure Trust Group will help you find work amicably for your condition. You got bad back, maybe being an administrator, working at a health desk in a doctor's hospital, part of reception, doing the hours you can do. But if you go through Sure Trust, you can not just like literally choose the hours you can do, but you say I can possibly sit up for half a day until my back gives up or gives in, or whatever your condition. You can they'll work with you, work around you. You want to get back to work, sitting indoors, not doing anything, or just being a critic on Facebook, where you can be a critic in someone's office. Do something you want to do. Do something you want to enjoy. You probably find with your party choice of politics, you can probably sit in one of their offices, help out, probably part of the admin group. Why not? Sitting in an office, you have more control of what the whole dominion, trying to get people to vote for your party policy, making phone calls to different, different business, different schools, different communities, trying to get them involved in voting. Anyway, ladies and gents, a short show for today, short and brief. Oh, actually, before we go, I wrote a story. I know this is totally off politics, but I just want to show you. Bear with me. So I wrote a story yesterday, just to show you my creative mind, my creative self. Let's see. There we go. Wednesday, the 13th October, which yesterday. I bet this. While I was sitting here with my brother and mum and dad watching TV. Proclamation, news and gatherings. My meeting, my greeting gestures. As a creative writer, philosopher, I'm very emotive in my thoughts. Not hi, how are you? An original greeting. Are you a Theophilus or an atheist? Not always the case who you drink your cup of tea with, which I've certainly found this out. But if you are Theophilus, usually show some kind of grounding game, a kind of preserved person you are. What's your aspirations in life, your hobbies and interests? What is your occupation? Anything I put my hand and mind to, I take preservance and have great observations also. My narrativity plus creativity equals mindfulness lifestyle doesn't necessarily mean I need to be surrounded by the same mindset. The same is inevitable and boring. A mixture of characteristics makes a strong friendship or relationship. Somewhat a challenging lifestyle can develop a creative writer's perspective and gain new key skills. I've learned both to study and become a phenomenal writer in a family household, with TV and folks talk about their day. It's become part of my first-hand essentials, writing a selected novels. I've also I also have an ectomorph fast metabolism physique, helps me become a critical thinker. I believe my sports science has helped me gain a selective of skills. Fast learner and quickly focused to learning new writing techniques. I was born in the postmodernism of 1983 of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, Jeremy Corbyn, Labour previous leader, was MP of North London. We had the Great Maze Escape prison, the biggest prison escape in Great Britain. In 1989, I went to the Church of England primary school called Wolf School in Fort Soken in Essex. I was born different to some children, as I couldn't enjoy other outdoor activities in winter months. I had secondary Raynaud's disease phenomenon. I lived with it. I was never frail enough to give up. Although it was painful enough to carry out further injuries through my feet and Achilles tendon, my medical records from the NHS showed just that. It shows a frail child grown to a man. Pains in my legs, feet, back, and hand, injuries over 37 years. Even from the age of 6 in 1989, right through to the present of 2020. Doctors over the years said arthritis won't be long behind me. Even as I type, I feel pins and needles in my phalanges. Oh, sorry, did I forget to mention my name is Justin Johnson? It was a pleasure meeting you. Lucky for you, I'm not a narcissistic person. I have a lot of compassion for people, either due to their job description or because I know there are others suffering in the world also. Winter is my worst month. I struggle in the mornings and walk outside, but I get on with it because I have to. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. That's my little story at the end of the show. Whoever's listening right now, really appreciate you listening to the whole show time and time again. Thank you. God bless. Take care, my friends. Ladies and gentlemen, on Castbox